How y'all doing? Let's see, on June 28, 2018, we lost one of the greats into science fiction and in just writing in general, and that's Harlan Ellison. He was a man who I first encountered on the Sci-Fi Channel, the early days of the Sci-Fi Channel, where he was doing commentary on Sci-Fi Buzz. And I couldn't help but notice that he was fascinating to listen to and all that. Later I started finding out more about him over the course of the years. And he was a man who was a writer whose works, many people call him a sci-fi writer. And yes, he did write some science fiction. Because first, and this is not quite correct, because first of all, he hates the word sci-fi, science fiction, but he didn't want to be locked into a certain genre. He was a writer, plain and simple, but some of his most famous work is in the realm of sci-fi. It'd be difficult trying to put down everything this guy's ever done. I'll post a link down to his books, and you got the HarlanEllisonBooks.com for those who are interested. But in this video, I probably want to talk about him just a little bit for those of you who don't know. If you're already fans of Harlan Ellison, you could go to better sources and all that. But this is just similar to my Victor Milan tribute not too long ago. Harlan, is one of those. He's like Mark Twain. You get to know him from his writings, but you also find the man himself interesting. He was a guy who pulled no punches about what he had to say. He was fair, but didn't take a crap. He started off when he got the stories about him are quite incredible. One of them, when he was kicked out of college for punching his one of his professors, who told him that he will not succeed as a writer. And then later on throughout the years, he is said that every time he published a story, he would send a copy of that to that professor. In the earlier years, he was writing in the Pulps, and he would write whatever, that's where he started writing early science fiction, but also wrote, other stuff as well, erotica. He would also write down, stories about gangsters and all that stuff. This is a time when you were writing the Pulps for a penny a word in most cases, and he had to crank out those stories continuously just to make ends meet. And there was also a story where he would one of the editors tried to couldn't pay him, so he disguised himself as a tax people at IRS, and then got just to sneak in, hawked the guy's typewriter, grabbed a typewriter and hawked at him for the money he thought he was due. But there's also more other stories where he's mailed a guy who he hated dead gophers or fifth class mail and what have you. All sorts of stuff like that. But also his work is quite extensive and definitely a fantasist for sure. I'll give you an idea of some of the stuff I've collected over years. First of all, I got this, The Essential Ellison. If you're interested in reading the guy and you don't know which one to get this bad boy, and don't let the thickness intimidate you. He wrote short stories mostly, and he wrote essays and everything. Didn't write like trilogies or things like that. He's done anthologies. One of the most famous anthologies is Dangerous Visions, and again, Dangerous Visions. There was supposed to be a third book, but he never got around to publishing that after years. Oh man, look that up. But Dangerous Vision was a very important anthology he edited because it sort of set the new wave in North America, the way Michael Moorcock set the new wave of fantasy science fiction in England. So he was a major influence in the genre. But here you'll find several of the essential source stories. I mean, it is essential. It says it on the cover. And all the stuff you hear, like I Have No Mouth, I Must Scream, let's see, Boy and His Dog, some of the screenplays he's written, and all sorts of things. So it's a very good book, and I've read several of the stuff there. One of the most interesting ones I've read was his story on a Canadian science fiction show called Star Lost. And what a train wreck that turned out to be, and he tells his story on that. Well, he was happy to see that go despite his work on that. But he got an award for his script that he did, which later was adapted into a comic book. And I think it was because whatever he turned in, they kind of screw up his work, and he was totally against screwing up original work. One of the most famous deals is The City on the Edge Forever, the famous Star Trek episode, the original series. He wrote that story. They changed it in the end, and several things about it. He wasn't too happy about that, so he published later on a book of the original script, so you could read what is completely entirely. But going back to Star Lost, he wrote the first episode. He got despite the failing of the show, he sent it to Writers Guild for contest, I believe, and he got an award for it. And despite all the awards he's given quite a lot over the years. He mostly finds them BS. I mean, he kind of takes joy in the sense that he still gets awards just to show that I still got it. But in the end, he always thought the awards, the Nebulas, the Hugos, and all that stuff were kind of BS. Except for this one he won for Star Lost, because this one is turned in, they read it, and they voted it the best, and his name was not on it. So they didn't know it was good without associating whose name it was. It was the only one he ever took pride in, I guess. And that story was later adapted to a comic book form, so you want to read that, there you go. Other things I got from, digressing, but that's going to be part for a course in this video. I got, this is the first book I ever got, was Harlan Ellison's Pain, God, and Other Delusions, a series of short stories. This one has the famous Repent Harlequins and the TikTok Man, but other ones I particularly like was the Crackpots, Bright Eyes, and there's a few others. But again, it's just I thought it was a very good story. So I picked it was one of the ones my great uncle I got from my great uncle there. But I say he didn't just write just stories. This guy has written television and movies and such like that, and he's also delved in comics. He was a huge comic guy. He believed in American literature. And one of the things he did was Harlan Ellison's Dream Corridors. Find these in the comic store, grab them what you can. They're wonderful. These are adaptations of his work in comic form. And he hosts it, he himself, kind of like the Crypt Keeper and Tales from the Crypt and all that, he hosts his own comic here in the same manner, where you go to some, where you go inside the Lost Aztec Temple of Mars, I believe. Oh no, the Dream Corridor. I'll get to the Lost Aztec Temple of Mars in a second. But he gets, each one of these are a series of his short stories adapted in comic form by various artists. They're very entertaining as all get out. But his home in Los Angeles is a really cool place called the Lost Aztec Temple of Mars, also known as Alice in Wonderland, which was a bad pun which he enjoyed. Look that up on Google there and see the outside and all that. But of course, his inside is also impressive, filled with thousands and thousands of books and comics in his own workspace. But one of the most interesting books, if I had to make a recommendation, and that is Minefields. See if we can get out the glare. The Art of Jacek Jurka, the Fiction of Harlan Ellison. Harlan was he did a lot of introduction work. Book come out, he would write an introduction about it, but to help to introduce the books, what have you. He got tired of doing that, and he was told to do. He was given the a book that shows the art of Jacek Jurka, who's a surrealist artist. That's why he got basically a crocodile on a car thing. Surreal art, which he enjoyed so much, he wasn't going to write an introduction. He was going to write a short story for each painting in the book. If I recall right, it took about a year and a half. So you get a picture of one side, like this, and the accompanying story on the other. This story is very in length, of course. And there's a video. Harlan Ellison, before he died, he has a YouTube channel to where his Sci-Fi Buzz segments are on it, and a few of his Q&As as well. And one of the Sci-Fi Buzz segments is him reading a story, which is a Valentine to his wife, Susan. But the whole book itself is wonderful to read. Gives you an idea of the type of things that he's into and the type of stories he wants to tell. But in his fiction alone, as remarkable as it is, the man himself is just as remarkable. Like I say, he's like Mark Twain. You read his fiction, then you read so much about the guy, then the guy himself is also fascinating, his thoughts and everything. So this time we got video of Harlan. But when you listen to him, fair warning, if you never saw the guy before, he's one of those you maybe drawn to listen to, but you won't agree with him on everything. And that's a good thing, really, because you want some, and he's very out there. He's in your face. Tells it as it is. Leonard Nimoy once said about his views on the Hollywood industry about changing to work. Harlan is an understanding man. He understands that the writing process, how it works in Hollywood. He just doesn't put up with it. He's known for many of the famous lawsuits. One of them was his lawsuit against James Cameron for the Terminator film, the first one, because he's, by talking to a few guys in Starlog magazine who interviewed James Cameron, he told them that he ripped off a couple of Harlan Ellison short stories that he did for the Twilight Zone, which he's written, Demon with a Glass Hand and Soldier. So he won that lawsuit, and there were several others as well. He, very grouchy type of guy, but for writers, for being creative writers and for the rights of the writers, he's the guy you always want on your side, and he's written for any genre that he's done. He's done voiceover work for cartoons, Pirates of Dark Water, and there's a Scooby-Doo episode he was in where he plays himself in essence. But look this guy up. I'm going to link down to a few videos down below, and harlanellisonbooks.com. For those of you who are interested, you can check his stuff out. Go to your used bookstore and find some stuff that are not published anymore, and definitely or get newer copies of what is out there now. Because love or hate it, they're fascinating reads. And he has been a major influence of writing of writers, especially in the science fiction world, as well as just writing in general. He's helped mentor Octavia Butler, J. Michael Straczynski, and oh gosh, I can't even think it off bat, but he has helped a lot of people creatively. One of the things about Harlan is that he's one of the few, it was thanks to him I got into certain books. One of them was Alfred Bester's Demolished Man. He talked about that, how much he loved that book in an interview he did. So I went and found that in the used bookstore, and I read it and enjoyed it. And it was because of him, of a short story he did. I read Dostoevsky's The Idiot, and that was because of a short story he did, Prince Mishkin and Hold the Relish. It's one of those stories I got, one of those odd stories I just love. And because it involved two guys talking Dostoevsky, and the main character is Prince Mishkin. So it's just one of those things that it's hard. I'm sorry if it's not overly coherent as usually my videos are, but it's a major loss when you take a look at the golden age of sci-fi, and on up. And when Harlan comes in, he was up there with Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke and Michael Moorcock and Paul Anderson and everyone. We had a major loss. A guy lived to 84 years old in the 90s, where he slowed it down a bit after triple heart bypass, and then 4 years ago, 2014, suffered a stroke. He was paralyzed on the right side, and then just recently we just heard that they passed away as of June 28, 2018. For those who are also interested in man's life's work and you don't want to just read about it, there's a documentary called Dreams with Sharp Teeth. It's all about Harlan from his early life on up and what all he did. Let's see. One of the famous cult movies was the apocalyptic movie A Boy and His Dog. That's a good one to watch. It's based on his novella. He and one thing about that movie is it was pretty much everything he wrote except for the last line, which he despised. So yeah, I can try and go on and on, but it'll just be rambling. But also one of the things that for those who love science fiction in general, and this is one of the ones I'm about to read here real soon, is I, Robot. This is a screenplay and described by some as the best science fiction movie never made. I, Robot, of course, if you think I, Robot, it's Isaac Asimov, and they've been trying for years to try and to make a movie of this, and it's kind of hard to when it's an anthology. The original book is just an anthology of stories with a similar theme of recurring characters. Harlan has apparently made a screenplay of this and about to be made. The problem was the guy in charge to set it up didn't read it. Harlan insulted him by calling him, has a brain of an artichoke, and because of that run-in, he has, it. Long story short, it just got canned. So he published it anyway. And it's a sad case because in the intro he talks about this movie adaptation, which Isaac Asimov enjoyed. They were good friends, and it was one where he would write it to where one day it was made and they both can sit and enjoy it, and what a wonderful work it is. But it's not going to happen. I mean, after it was made, sometime Isaac Asimov passed away, and now Harlan's gone. And by the way, this is not related to the iRobot film that Will Smith starred into this. No, I'm figuring this is going to be a lot better. And again, this is written in a screenplay format, but it's also illustrated. So you see this, pick it up. If anything, have in your collection there. I'm sure when I'm done reading this, it's probably one of the better sci-fi film books I've ever had read. And I love the original iRobot because I watched the movie with Will Smith and I thought it was great, but I didn't realize it was just a typical robots take over thing. And then I read the original book, which is one of those that has Will Smith on the cover, and I'm like, wow, they couldn't have messed it up more. And I started to understand why some people would hate it, but I'm sure once I read this is a more justified version of an adaptation, and it's too bad it won't be made while either one of them are alive. So there you go. So I'll put some links down below of about Harlan Ellison, some of the YouTube videos, and harlanellisonbooks.com for those who are interested, want to buy into that. So again, we just lost one of the greats, and oh man. The people who helped make this genre in fantasy science fiction are almost gone. The only one I can think of left is Michael Moorcock. Because let's see, Isaac Asimov, let's see, Clark, Jack Vance, Fritz Leiber, Paul Anderson, and all. I mean, you could get to listen. Think about all the people of that time who helped make this genre appealing and attractive in the first place. Just about gone. So, and all we got is their work and whatever we got recorded of them. So, let's preserve what we can here, shall we? So, I hope this video here, for those of you who watch it not familiar with Harlan, love him or hate him, I say give him a shot, because I'm sure you'll find a lot of stuff you can enjoy about him. And that's the thing about people, where you can't agree with them on everything. I don't agree with a guy's view on guns, and I think for example, and I won't go further into other things, but he's one of those that you listen to because it's it's one of those few people I have an uncle who was like this, who passed away. He's highly opinionated, well thought out, and whether you agree with it or not, you listen to him. And Harlan was kind of the same way. But also with Harlan, it was the type of guy you didn't cross, because he let you have it. But that's okay. I don't know what else to say about there. Again, major loss in the writing world, and science fiction in particular, but definitely in the writing world in general. Because this guy was just a flat-out writer. He wrote in everything he could, and won awards in many genres, in journalism, critics, film critic, what have you. So again, look this guy up, and a lot of people are already making videos about this incident already. There you go. Thank you all for watching. You have a nice day.